We're out here in Grand Teton National Park, up the Paintbrush Canyon, camping at Holly Lake. And we're here on a mission to cull out the resident local herd of mountain goats. This trip came about with my friend Ian Harrison from Ecological magazine. He's the editor-in-chief there. Ian saw this come across the wire, and he sent me a message a long time ago and asked me if I would be interested in going on this mountain goat trip in Grand Teton National Park. And he kind of gave me the rundown on what the program was, and I knew that Washington was doing something similar, and I said, sure, what the hell, let's do it. Sounds like a pretty gnarly adventure. I've never been to Grand Teton, so let's do it. And we had been planning on going on a deer hunt this year in Washington, our high country buck hunt. And he called me a couple weeks ago and towards the beginning of September and said, hey, it's time to go goat hunting. We got selected for Grand Teton. And I had totally forgot about it. I just totally spaced it because we were focused on this other hunt and a lot of other things going on in life. And we're like, well, obviously we're not going deer hunting in Washington because that opportunity will be there next year. So here we are in Grand Teton National Park. It's been just this incredible journey. Just to get here, the places that you drive through to get here, and then witnessing the mountains for the first time, it's super, super impressive. This is going to be a spot where I think you just sit and pick apart. Look, all these ledges, all these little nooks, crannies.
There's also, I think you've got to bear in mind that this area has not been managed for goats. And so the population in here is kind of like the starter, like the seed population going in here, and they want them gone before they really take root. So there's not a huge population in these mountains, I don't think.
No, I would say in this area that we're hunting, 60 to 70 goats is what they anticipated before their cull, before that 36 that they killed with the helicopter.
Yeah.
And so, you're looking now for 40 to 50 goats.
Yeah. In
this massive area.
Yeah. And you can, just to put it in perspective, you can see right behind us, we glassed everything in there. We were on that ridge, intermediate ridge. We glassed everything in this bowl behind us. We couldn't see in this one, in this canyon from where we were, so we moved downhill and then up into this canyon, and now we're going to pick this one apart and see if we can find any goats up here. But yeah, it's a hell of a lot of terrain to cover.
And it's one of the things that, I guess volunteering for this, like it's our responsibility to cover ground. Like it's our responsibility to try to find them, and you got to put in the work to do it. You have to put in the miles, you have to climb, you have to get where the goats are.
Yeah, this is kind of the antithesis of a guided hunt, like, because nobody knows where they are. There's no, we're literally the first people to hunt in this area since 1939.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I mean, if you think about what a guide does, a guide is the hunter, right? The guide is the person who locates the animals, The guide knows what the animals do. He understands their habits, and clients are just kind of along for the ride, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
They have to keep up. They have to be able to get to where they can make a shot, and they have to make the shot. And the guide is doing all the rest of the work. So here we are doing a self-guided mountain goat hunt in some of the toughest country in the lower 48.
And I wouldn't change it for the world.
No way. The National Park Service put out a solicitation to the public and said, hey, we need some help out at the Grand Teton National Park because this invasive species of goat that was brought here in the 70s is now starting to expand because it's good habitat. But as a result of that expansion and their presence, a couple of things happened. First, they're starting to push out the resident and indigenous population of Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep. And so they're competing for habitat and feed here in the park. And the other problem with the goats is that they have been migrating up into the park from the south. And the ones that have migrated up into the park from the south, the biologists have grabbed samples, test samples, DNA samples, and have mapped out that these goats came from this genetic pool of these goats here down south of the park. And so those goats down south of the park have pathogens in their blood that, if transmitted to the Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep, makes them very, very susceptible to pneumonia. But since 2005 to now, they've expanded to a population that the Park Service has determined that it's not feasible for the environment and for the ecosystem. So they brought in a helicopter, and in one day, in one morning, in 4 hours, they reduced the population by 36. So I don't know the exact transfer of words or communication that occurred between the governor's office and the National Park Service, but the Wyoming State Governor's Office elected to stop that and asked the National Park Service to open this up for an opportunity to residents and hunters around the nation to apply for permits to come out here and hunt. And here we are in Grand Teton National Park at Holly Lake, trying to find mountain goats and enjoying this absolutely incredible mountain experience.
sucked it up. He's done.
Shoulder. Shoulder.
By the way, I just saw your exit as he was rolling.
Yeah, he's done.
Solid exit there on
Both of them,
double
dude.
long.
You're within 4 inches of each other.
Yeah. Ooh, man, look at those exits.
We had our first goat engagement. Not a terribly tricky shot, but you know, anytime you're shooting in the mountains with unknown conditions, it's tricky. We're very fortunate we came up on him in the morning when the thermals are just now starting to figure out what they're doing. We got some wind flows here in the mountains as the air heats up, but when we found the goat, he was just walking and to a bedding spot, and he laid right down and stretched out, and we decided that was the time. So when I wanted to build my position, I knew that I needed a couple of things. I wanted this rock, but I thought about laying prone, but I would need to have such a steep up angle because where the goat was, that it wasn't going to be practical or comfortable. So I took a tripod, laid the legs out, made the nice wide base, clipped into the rail here, and then built a position sitting on this rock. So that way I could get square behind the gun. I can make sure that the rifle is completely solid. I used my sling, and I also used my little mini game changer, the pint size. I got the Get Light fill in here, and man, it's just totally worth the wait. So what I was able to do is build a position using the rear bag here, sling in the shoulder. You can go ahead and sling up for the video here. So he took the sling over, and the reason I wanted to use the sling, I knew that this 7 SAUM was going to recoil quite a bit with the tripod, so I wanted to make sure that the rifle had a really good connection to my shoulder, and I had all the time in the world because he was sleeping. So we get into the rifle, get nice and square, get comfy, check natural point of aim for where he is, and then reach up, pull some sling tension. When my elbow comes down to the rear bag, that rifle is completely rock solid, and I had no wobble zone whatsoever, and so 100% confident in the shot. And I ended up shooting him 3 times just to make sure. All 3 were hits. First shot was just a skosh low, but made a quick correction and made it happen. So 734 yards. A lot of this hunt has been trying to locate animals. And from a hunting perspective, with country this massive and this grand, with it taking such incredible amount of effort to get where you got to go, 5 days is not a lot of time to locate animals. All of the stuff, the shooting position stuff, that was a no-brainer. It's like that just happens on autopilot. I was more concerned about making sure that I was going to end this animal's life as quickly and efficiently as possible. And having confidence in my gear, having confidence in my training, having confidence in, the rifle's accuracy, having confidence in the accuracy of everything all together, right? The circle of components coming together. I wasn't focused on the shooting position. I was more focused on making sure that I was making a good decision to take that shot. And it turned out I did. I made a good decision. So I think that that's something that as we grow in this community and we continue to push the boundaries, we continue to push the limits with gear, with rifles, with capabilities, it's important that we never lose sight of making sure that we ask ourselves the question, especially when we're shooting at an animal, hey, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I doing this to prove a point, or am I doing this because I fully understand that is within my realm of capabilities and I have no question that I can make that shot? And if you can't answer that, in that way, then you shouldn't be taking that shot. And so you have to get closer. And in this case, with this goat, I would have had to have passed because there's no way for me to get closer and still see him with the angles. And that's just hunting. That's just the way it is. So, you know, it's been one of the things I've definitely changed my perspective on hunting over the years. And I'm not in it for the trophies. I'm not in it for the photos. I'm not in it for anything other than it being a part of who we are as human beings. Being able to come here to a place like this and share space with these mountains, share space with the animals. And for me, I think it's great to be able to bring home completely organic, real food to my family. I think that's really important. And the experience of the whole process, because it's a process, especially coming out here into the backcountry. You know, we're 8 miles away from our trucks, almost 4,000 feet above them. So, you know, you have to be reliant on yourself. You have to be reliant on your own intuition. You have to make good decisions, because making bad decisions up here, you'll pay for it. Whether that's a severely blistered heel, or you didn't pay attention to, you know, what your true physical capability is, and you burn yourself out on the hike up here, and you're so stiff in the morning you can't wake up and go hunting. Maybe you're not hydrated properly. Like, all of these things are things that we have to manage and keep track of when we're in this environment. And I think for me, that's what draws me to it. It's the self-reliance. It's just being in this area, in these incredible places. So yeah, and we kill animals. We kill animals because that's how we bring protein home to our families, period. End of story. It's not something I take joy in. Like, I don't high five my buddies and stuff, and like it's like a serious moment. And you have to be, as far as I'm concerned, you need to be respectful of that. So that's why we train. That's why we make good shots. And that's why we're honest with ourselves.